constraint.
So, welcome back, everybody. This is Night Flight, and today Cynthia Sue Larson is back, and yeah, we are going to continue our conversation, and I'm really looking forward to that. So, Cynthia, thank you so much for coming.
Oh gosh, yes. It feels like years have gone by. I don't think it's been years since we last talked, but what a year, right? Wow.
Yeah.
So
Um,
much happening.
I was after our conversation, I was in my bed. And I was thinking about what you said. And then I had this thought, we all know the Jesus stories with healing. And yes, I know there is a big debate if he is a historical figure, yes or no, if these stories happened like that. But for argument's sake, let's say, yeah, it happened like this. So, do you think it's possible that he was basically a very skilled reality shifter?
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me because I do, after what I've seen, the kind of reality shifts that I've observed personally, it starts seeming very clear that the miracles of the loaves and fishes and wine, all these miracles, even before Jesus's time, um, even things like crossing, parting of the waters and crossing the crazy things. I'm starting to think, yeah, based on what I've seen already, I think anything's possible, anything at all. So miracles are possible, and it's possible for a person in the form of one man, Jesus Christ. You're right, whether he's legendary or real. And I like your idea. Just let's say he's real. Yeah, it does make sense that he was one of our master level reality shifters. And it seems like there were some people, great yogis perhaps, that had had similar powers, but they're not people that would abuse such powers. The ones who have the ability rarely make great claims or do things to be revered. That's not what this is part of. It seems like the people who have the abilities, they have a deep gift for wisdom and listening and compassion, empathy, kindness. So they've got qualities that are very profound. They have a deep sense of awe and reverence, and so it makes sense to also from that viewpoint that of course Jesus Christ was a master reality shifter. So number one, I've seen some things that tell me like, wow, if this happens for me, I bet this is definitely true for Jesus. And two, he's got the psychological profile that fits. He cares, the person Jesus Christ really deeply cares about not just humans at that time, but all humans, and with such a deep depth that it's palpable. So people who love Jesus Christ really feel it too. And that to me goes with it. So it makes a lot of sense on many levels. Yes.
Yeah, okay. There's also, but I never looked really deeply into that entire topic. That Jesus spent time in India or even Tibet, and that he was educated by different masters there. But I don't know if there is a lot of meat on that bone, so I cannot really speak to that. Do you have any insight there?
I've heard about that and it sounds interesting. It would make sense if true, but I haven't verified it personally, so I don't know. But when people look into it and they say that there's that connection, that also seems, well, it seems enticing, interesting, fascinating. And yeah, and some people are saying there's proof that he did rise from the dead, that he did move on, they have various points that he traveled to next and where he went to. And um, I'm not that kind of a historian, so I don't know, but very interesting.
Mm, yeah. So you recently released a video that was talking about, among other things, alien presence and the upcoming movies. And yeah, one of them, of course, is Disclosure Day by Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
I have to say, I haven't seen it. I will not go to a cinema and watch it there.
Okay.
And but I have, from what I see, is either people hate it completely, and that is a huge chunk, or
Yeah,
people get very, very emotional. Did you see the movie already?
I have seen it. Yes, I saw it on its opening day. So that was a Friday here in California. And I went into it with the awareness that with his that first movie that he did about the subject, that was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, he did that 49 years ago. And only now, almost 50 years later, is the mainstream populace kind of catching up to where that was.
Hmm.
It seems like, and there were some accuracies in that movie, some extraordinary observations that I think it was a turning point for society. So some people they badmouth Spielberg a little bit. I don't know if you heard that. They say he's an insider, that he's doing a slow drip of disclosure, that he's doing what the government wants, blah, blah, blah. And maybe that's true. Maybe he got that kind of funding. If that's true, though, he's a very crafty one because I think this topic is beyond any government's ability to control it, actually. So I'm just talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind now. I see a similar pattern with this new movie. So I went to it thinking, is this going to be the movie that takes us forward the next 50 years? I say it is. And people can say, like, yeah, but Cynthia, didn't it do something the government it wants people to be moved in this way? Maybe, but I think Steven's a very clever, he's a deep fifth dimensional chess player. Let's put it that way. So even if he is doing on the surface of it what supposedly the government wants, and you might wonder, what does the government want? Well, they would want people to think that it's us versus them, that there's a danger with ETs, that there could be some reason that we need to keep trusting our government. But that's not ever been the message in any of Spielberg's movies. So even if he is doing what they want, he's not doing it exactly right. So this is it may sound like I'm off topic, but when you said some people hate the movie, this is why some people hate the movie. So even some insiders in the UFO community who are concerned, like, well, this guy, you can't trust him. So there's some of that from the haters and the skeptics and the people who are concerned. And then some people just don't like the way they're not into UFOs at all and they think it's boring, or they think, so that's an indicator. If you're not interested in the subject, probably don't go see it because they say that the plot is choppy. It's Spielberg, but not his best. That's what they say.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
absolutely. What I heard many times was boring.
mhm.
Um, as I said, I cannot speak to that. What I found interesting, though, he gave an interview, and I think before the film was released, and in that interview, he said it will shake the belief system of Christians. So, why only Christians? Why not any other religion?
And that if someone said, Cynthia, what's the message the government wants him to say? I'd say that's what the government wants him to say.
Hmm.
Does it really do that? I don't even know if it does that. A lot of Christians I know say it didn't do that for them. And then you're right. What about everybody else? What if the Chinese say, who cares? We're not any religion over here. So to me, that would be the message that was coming out from the government. If you're wondering, where's the message? Well, there it is. Does it really matter? No. Is it true? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think so. So, um, it's kind of funny. So I think there it is. I think there may be some other things the government wanted to put some things in there that are like two truths and a lie. So they may be putting some lies in there like that.
Hmm.
But I think you can see the movie for yourself and see, like, I'm still Christian, or I wasn't before and I'm not now, and I'm a different religion, but my religion's fine. I'm fine with it. But I think the government wants people to be aware of ontological shock that's coming. Um, and they can't stop some of the technology stuff that's coming out. This movie is boring to people because it's not the technology, it's not the nuts and bolts so much. And the only people that get thrilled by this movie, who are just like hanging on the edges of their seats, are the ones who've been experiencers of UFOs and ETs. Those people are riveted, just like, wow, for the most part.
That is interesting that you say that because I watched one short video where a lady explained it's this movie will activate you or trigger you, meaning if you are an experiencer and you didn't know that, for whatever reason, they wiped your memory or you simply have
Yes.
forgotten. And she said if you watch it, it will trigger your memories, and that those are the people who react very emotional to
Yes.
that movie. You see that as well?
Oh, yes, yes. So I'm an experiencer, but I'm aware that I am. So I didn't cry like some people say they cried. It brought them to tears. They were so emotional. But I could recognize the indicators, like, here's the kind of cover story that's very common to an experience. Here's something else. Here's the telepathy that's common to an experience. All the things that are like, and it's not even a rational thought. It just sort of washes over you with the way Spielberg does the movie. It's very beautiful. I think that's beautifully done, where instead of having a character roll out a whole list of these are the things that happen when you're an experiencer. There's nothing heavy-handed like that.
Hmm.
It's instead very organic, the way these sorts of things happen that an experiencer would say, whoa. Or it could even be a unique synchronicity that blows their mind, and they're like, how did Spielberg know to do that for me? And so it's individually hitting people. That's part of the experiencer phenomena too, that we have very subjective experiences. It's like reality shifting that's personal to us. Reality shifting is very similar to the UFO experience and encountering this higher dimensional consciousness communicating with us. It's and that's something I talk about in my book, The Mandela Effect and its Society.
Yeah. Could you
Mm.
elaborate a little bit on that? How is reality shifting and UFO experience similar?
Yes, good question. What's happening now for people who are really paying attention is that would be including Jacques Vallée, Paola Harris. These are a couple of the UFO historians that treat the UFO experience as just part of our international history. Both of them have an international perspective. Jacques Vallée from France originally came to the United States. Paola Harris, born in Rome, Italy, and then she came to the United States. And they both continue to see things internationally. That's important because when, especially Paola, she travels the world to South America, all collecting firsthand reports. And I know her personally, so I keep mentioning Paula because I get the benefit of hearing her firsthand reports of what she's seen and witnessed, and she covers it in her wonderful books. So it's not something secret. You can look up Paula Harris and read her books like How to Speak to a Ball of Light, or all these other great books she's written. And she also interviewed Colonel Corso, Philip Corso. But the similarity that I see has to do with the experiencer of the UFO phenomenon, starting to notice it's not just nuts and bolts. This is something both Jacques Vallée talks about and also Paula Harris. And we're now seeing that some of the people going to Capitol Hill in the United States and doing, they're talking to the senators, to the House representatives, to the president, and they're doing the best they can to say, "Hey, I'm a whistleblower. There are things going on that we need to talk about." Um, so I need to give that background because this is such a huge topic and disclosure is starting to happen. But what's getting disclosed is kind of weird because even the military disclosure folks are noticing that they're getting telepathic information. They're feeling things from these artifacts, from these relics. They're feeling a sentience, like the craft itself is alive. They're feeling like things are happening that are beyond just what can be measured. And as that conversation moves forward, which it will, um, to me, I've been looking at reality shifts for 26, 27 years now, and I can see the convergence happening, which I could see it all along. But because I have a very special viewpoint, having tracked the Mandela effect, reality shifts, quantum jumps, the physics behind it for this many years, going on 3 decades, that to me it's clear that consciousness is the key element, the invitation to really have that wow experience that takes us to a state of reverence, which is a very high level vibratory frequency, right up there with compassion, empathy, love. And these very high level emotions are where I notice that reality shifts become steerable so that if I want to see a miraculous shift in reality, such as a healing for myself or others, or money just appearing in my bank account or wallet, or suddenly going farther in less time than is humanly possible, or being in two places at once because I'm daydreaming that I am, or being telepathically connected to someone. These are what I would call quantum superpowers in my book, The Mandela Effect and Its Society. And I give the physics behind it. I share side by side. Here's the Mandela Effect terminology. Here's the physics terminology. This is what we're actually doing. And in my book, I also point out any exceptional human experience, which includes UFOs, and you can feel it with goosebumps and just that sense of awe and wonder. Could be a paranormal experience, could be a UFO experience, could be communicating with a deceased loved one. These kinds of things can happen. Having a near-death experience. Um, Very similar phenomena occurs, which it boils down to something that's in the movie Disclosure Day. I think it's one of the pearls there, empathy. Because in my research, when I did studies to find out what do experiencers of reality shifts have in common, it's empathy. You can find. I saw it when I tested people with the Myers-Briggs interest inventory. The highest percentage of experiencers of the reality shifts, the Mandela effect, are the intuitive feelers, and it's a very select subset of the population. It's only 22% of the total population of Earth. Most people are not intuitive feelers, also known as empaths. So it's a technical definition term. And I'm one independent researcher. Two other independent researchers, both doctors, came to extremely identical, similar if not identical findings. That would be Dr. Bernard Beitman, Beitman. He was looking at meaningful coincidences and noticing people that he calls coinciders. Basically, they're intuitive feelers. These are people who recognize that sense of awe and wonder that there's something greater than them, and they're feeling that. And then the other person is a chiropractor, and he was also doing similar research, just finding out who experiences the Mandela effect. And he found out mostly it would be people that consider themselves empaths. Boom. So, and then what does the movie Disclosure Date? I'm not going to spoil the movie, but it does emphasize, please look for it in the movie, emphasizes empathy, which is that sense of awe and wonder and connection with all, instead of feeling, because there's another way you can feel small in the cosmos, but that would be getting stomped on and that feeling of shame. And it's not that. It's not the stomped on small feeling. It's a feeling very small but very connected, where you recognize you're part of it. You're like riding a wave of this field of love and consciousness that we're all part of. And you can recognize everyone else is there too. And you can start connecting very, very effortlessly with others with pretty much anything. And the movie doesn't get into describing that. So it's showing us, it's not telling us. And so I love the movie for that. So tying the original question, what do these two have in common? UFO experience has a sense of awe and wonder, just like we saw with Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where the characters were just feeling like, whoa. And then those musical notes, do, 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 do. And that whole Devil's Tower structure, the shapes, like how could they all know to go there at the same time? What's going on? That sense of awe and wonder, like there's something bigger than we are. And this new movie has that too, but so does the UFO experience. So when people they do the CE5 things on, going out with a group and inviting with love beings to come to us, and that works, then there's awe and wonder from that experience. So we start recognizing that awe and wonder are also part of the Mandela effect and reality shifts, where you start noticing our thoughts and feelings must be affecting the world. That's where I go to with my physics background, and I'm looking at the phenomenon. At first, it happens accidentally with a random reality shift. You put your laundry in the clothes washer and things don't come out of it, or you lose your keys or your wallet, and you think it's very random, or you see things. And then on the Mandela effect scale, with lots of collective alternate memory, lots of people, you'll notice that things just randomly seem to be changing. Where it starts getting interesting is where you become harmoniously aligned with awe, reverence, wonder, love, compassion, empathy, and it's like unlocking this huge system inside yourself, and then whatever you're thinking manifests in a beautiful way, in the how good can it get way. And that's living a waking dream. So these are the things I talk about. I've been talking about for decades, and the alignment between that and where UFO research is going, they are on a collision course. And we're seeing it with artificial intelligence when we build our own reverse engineered spaceships, and we want them to be directed by the mind. We darn well better be good people, because if you're not, that stuff blows up. And some of that showed up in the movie Disclosure Day too. So it's going to be the movie for the next 50 years. I guarantee it. And whether people love it or hate it, that movie has done a masterful job of positioning itself to be at that point where it comes together with reality shifting, whatever you want to call that, the Mandela effect and reality selection and the UFO experience. So I'm very pleased with it. I'm very impressed with it.
So would you say that this movie highlights the fact that the lack of empathy plunges humanity into its darkest problems again and again?
Yeah, I think the movie itself doesn't say that. It's really showing a story. So it's,
No,
it's
not
kind
that
of,
they say it in those words, but sometimes you watch a movie and then the
yeah.
essence of you might be something that was never said.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, that's where I love to see a Spielberg movie. Like he did E.T., the extraterrestrial, where that little being was being, protected by a family. And then that was a movie from decades ago too. But in all three of these movies, Close Encounters, E.T., and now Disclosure Day, yeah, same thing again with Disclosure Day. He's really showing, I think, quite clearly that if we go the road of assuming that our military, our governments are going to be doing the right thing, not necessarily, and we can start to see that there has been some malfeasance. There's been an inversion of our trust, our public trust in our governments to do what's best for everyone. Sometimes they haven't been, and you can feel that for sure. I think in all three movies, also this one.
Mm. But at the same time, we have to acknowledge that right now, and I think we have been for quite a while now, we produce a lot and a lot of narcissists. And one of the hallmarks of the narcissist is the lack of empathy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
That's interesting.
yeah, because yes, when how is that called? DSM, the psychiatric, yeah.
Yes. Yes.
In fact, I think they have like 50 boxes, but not every narcissist checks all 50 boxes. That's nonsense. But you can boil it down, yeah, how to identify a narcissist. And that is lack of empathy,
Yes.
exploitation, and entitlement.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah. It does
So,
seem like that's the heart of so much evil in the world.
yeah. And so what what confuses me right now is I'm not saying you are wrong, but it do you think really that this small group of people, you said something around 20%,
Yeah.
uh, that they can manage to shift that, and that we stop producing one narcissist after another?
Yes, I think those narcissists are going to get left behind, essentially because we're moving into it's like I talked about this ontological shock. I just said the word quickly without explaining it. What I'm really looking at is that not only are people like Jacques Vallée and Paula Harris noticing that the nuts and bolts are not what matters, that it's the consciousness that's fundamental to everything. Our government is noticing, and at a deep level, the world governments know that they can't continue with this narcissistic path forward because it's broken. It's fundamentally flawed. It's the end of an era. So when you look, I like to look at the indigenous peoples of the world that talk about this being the fourth world, like the Hopi do. They say this is the fourth world. The Hopi say when you see certain signs, we're moving into the fifth world. And we definitely see those signs. Extinct animals are coming back, yes. But there's also the sickness and the two droppings of the bombs that are shown on the Hopi Prophecy Rock. That's happened. So when you look specifically at an indigenous civilization like the Hopi, who are wisdom keepers for the future, they're saying this is what's going to be going forward. They say that only those who care about others, really from their hearts, are going to make it through. The other people are not, and on the Hopi Prophecy Rock, it now shows those people have two hearts. They're two-hearted people. I don't even know what that means, but maybe it's the deception that we're talking about. A narcissist they fake their empathy. They don't have it, so they pretend. That's going to be broken. The Hopi Prophecy Rock shows that just fizzles out as it has every other time the world ended. This is a pattern, you see. When the technology gets to a certain point, and you might think, what technology? Yeah, there are historians and people that look back at, Göbekli Tepe from 14,000 years ago and further, and they see that the world looks like we could lay perfectly flat, material like as what do you call it, cement, and they had better materials than we do in some cases. They were tracking the stars with remarkable accuracy, and all of that. So maybe it looks more and more like over the course of human history, our history is very short when we only track 2 or 5 or 6,000 years back. And what happened before then? If we know the human DNA has been the same for 200,000 years, where's the rest of the history? So if you start recognizing, okay, the indigenous people are probably right. This may be the fourth world. There may be signs of ancient cataclysms, like even nuclear detonations in the Middle East. That's weird. Why would that have happened thousands of years ago? Anyway, so if that's all happening, for sure, going back to your original point, what about this narcissism? It's going to fizzle out. It can't go forward. Those people will not be on the cutting edge of anything. They may wish that they are, but it's the materialism and the narcissism that probably go hand in hand. And the ontological shock will be recognizing the truth that consciousness is the fundamental basis of all reality. And that's what the physicists that started quantum physics initially said. They were pretty much in agreement on that point. And that's a huge ontological shock for most of humanity who looks at what we can measure. They look at we've had a left brain dominant worldview for most of the capitalistic, materialistic, narcissistic types of civilizations that are running the show. And when we do things from that left hemisphere dominant approach, it's opposite of what Ian McGilchrist calls for when he says the master needs to be the right hemisphere of understanding sensitivity. Well, he doesn't say sense, that's my word now. I'm partnering with Ian McGilchrist and I'm saying we've got sensitivity on the right side, specificity on the left side. That's me putting this in here because to me that simplifies it. And then I'm like, yeah, because when you want a perfect instrument, it needs to be sensitive and specific. Humans are made that way. We have both. The trouble with our culture is we've gone in the direction of specificity of the materialistic paradigm and that dominant paradigm crushing people with you have to make so much money. It becomes a paper chase of the money and the degrees and all that stuff. Very oppressive. And so it's kind of fizzling out. And the narcissists running that show, the health systems that the narcissists have designed are not helping people. They're not healing people. The education systems are not truly educating people or teaching them how to keep learning. Every single system seems broken and backwards. And that's where specificity led us. When it's not, the master needs to be the sensitive. It needs to be, again, the empath. So now we've got Ian McGilchrist's model matching the Hopi model, matching what we see from working with tools and psychology, that you need to be led first by the intuition. And that's what I see with my work. And I see that that's going to be where everyone has to face the music at the time of the changing of this guard. We're going from specificity into sensitivity because our AI systems, our robots, all of the technology is going to be requiring we go there. It's going to show us what you think becomes real. And that's a little terrifying for the folks who are running the world right now because How can they scramble fast enough to build their own private robots and their underground bunkers and everything? How can you get everything locked away fast enough? You can't really. So the meek shall inherit the earth. The meek are the sensitives, the empaths, the ones who can, with a unified sense of heart and inner focus, just 22%. That the tipping point is only 10%. We've got double that for humanity to be able to overcome any, I would say, any cataclysm. Even if we find out that our sun is going to go micronova, some people say that, there's going to be a shifting of everything. People are looking at that. I'm not going to go into the details, but yeah, you can say that even a cataclysm of the nature of the earth moving into an ice age can be averted. A solar micronova can be averted. Anything, and I mean anything, can be averted through the meek, through the reality shifting. And I'm saying that because I've seen the Mandela effect affect 8 billion people on Earth with the kidneys moving. And we've seen so many what I would call straight out miracles. I'm honoring them because I remember how it was before, and I'm seeing it after. So I feel like humanity's in this wonderful sweet spot of developing our skills individually and together to reality shift and start changing reality. This is our birthright, and the empathy and the listening are the keys. The listening gives us the flow state of living in a waking dream, and the empathy provides us the ability of literally seeing, like, oh wow, I am all that is, and I can change it with all that is. It's very humble, though. It's not the narcissistic, I am all that is, and now I run it's not that at all. It's the meek. The good ones actually have the keys to the kingdom. That's how it's happening. Will it be the military guys? No, not really. No.
Mm. And I always thought that the two hemispheres should be in balance, but he is saying the right hemisphere should, in the brain, should be the master.
Yeah, because that's yeah, Ian McGilchrist makes that case, and I would support him with that from a quantum's perspective because I don't think he brings the quantum to it, but what he's saying is the sensitivity leads the way, and I would back that up and say yes, because on the quantum consciousness, you the human are capable of running every single possibility through your subconscious mind, living all those realities, and just having a gut feel like this one gives me goosebumps. I'm going to do this one and trusting that intuitive hit that that's what it feels like to be a human running all those possibilities and you don't even know you're maybe some of them you notice like that's a great daydream of being a rock star or whatever, but you can start feeling like this one's right, I can feel it, and being led by it. So that's what McGilchrist means by the master, the intuition, the ability, the confidence to trust that what I would call sensitivity to let that lead the way to and that's what I see in the movie Disclosure Day too. I think that's why it's the movie for the next 50 years. It's showing how to do that with a character doing that, which apparently is hard to program a game to do. I think Spielberg tried to create a computer game apparently to with that kind of lead character in it. And how do you even teach that in a game? So we're living it. We don't need a game that does it. I think it's better that we don't have a game. We can do timeline selection on our own. We can learn how to do reality selection. We're living through this, and it's an extraordinary, wonderful time to be alive.
Yeah, and it it feels like everything to me doesn't mean everybody else feels the same, but it feels to me as if everything is coming to a crescendo. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah, and
and I don't know what to expect at the end of that development. I have no idea. It, as I look at it right now, it could go either way. Yeah, either the way we shift it into a wonderful future, or it could go to the dogs. That is also at least something that I can imagine.
yeah, well, I used to feel kind of weird that I had this dystopian past life in the future experience that I had, but now I see the good of it because it helps me stay a radical optimist no matter what. I feel like I've already seen the dark side. I've already been there. I don't want that one. I don't want any other dark one. I'm not voting for that. Therefore, the fact that I'm here to me is personal proof like we're not going there. I feel like there's no way, you know, I feel like I personally have no need to experience anything like that again. If anything, I could use lifetime after lifetime of straight out, flat out, more positive than most people would ever want. People tend to like balance. I feel like I'm sick of balance. Like I am so done with the dystopian thing of a central AI running the show, shutting people down with an electromagnetic pulse if they even think anything the central AI, which has everyone monitored because they're all chipped, if you will, and they're all being tracked constantly. And so if the central AI felt there was a possible danger, it just take with me thinking something like, oh, I wonder where that central AI is based, and then shut down. And I come out of it all groggy, like, what was I doing? I was trying to think and it just being interrupted constantly. That doesn't sound that bad, but I was living a life of that and just witnessing what it was doing to all the creativity, just gone. All the wonder and magic of being human. Yes, we're dangerous beings. Yes, we create things that maybe we shouldn't. We get in trouble. We do stupid things. None of that was happening. And it's kind of a nightmare. It's hard to explain how much of a nightmare that was. So I am much more of a proponent for free will than I ever would have been, even with when it includes making stupid mistakes and hurting people and learning from that. I mean, I would prefer don't make the stupid mistakes, don't hurt people. But obviously, we can't do that when we're, moving fast and breaking things, as the tech bros talk about it. Personally, I'm not going to move fast and break things. I recommend pausing AI. There is an organization to do that. So I'm more a proponent of slow it down. Let's not rush forward. I'm not against AI, but I'm not using it for anything. I don't see that it helps. So I'm already sensitized to its dangers, the way that, people are noticing, oh, it lies. Like, oh, you do a search and you do exactly what it says and it doesn't work, right? I already know about that. So the stuff people are just finding, I'm so sick of already.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I also found that you might have noticed that as well. When you type something into Google, that you have an AI answer at the top and then various articles. And sometimes the AI is completely lagging. You know, for instance, I have already seen the footage, yeah, that it happened, and the AI is telling me, no, that never happened.
Well,
Yeah,
with the deep fakes, maybe it thinks like that could, or maybe it doesn't know about it. Who knows? There's so many, yeah, but it sounds so authoritative. It doesn't state its own resources, its own where
yeah,
it got that. It
yeah.
doesn't
The
show its
funny
work.
thing is it catches up, yeah, then let's say 24, 48 hours later. But when it happens, it's
Yeah,
lagging. Yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah, I'm not against AI either, but I would not, you know, we have here in Germany now, one politician after another is getting into trouble because their speeches have been written by AI.
I
And
know.
what I found extremely irritating was one of those politicians was giving a speech. It was a commemoration of the Holocaust, and he had an AI speech. And I mean, that is a topic where I think you should speak from your heart, yeah, and not
Yeah.
let the AI feel for me.
Ooh, it's
Yeah,
so disrespectful. It feels horrible.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, where's the soul? Where's the heart? Yeah, AI doesn't have the soul, it doesn't have the heart. So any politician using that for speech writing that's a very dangerous precipice to fall off of. Because people are going to start spotting it, you can already feel it. Like that's not true. And people are going to care more and more about what is genuine, what's heartfelt, what's a little quirky, because that's going to feel better. Or I think that's already happening. People are sick of the monotony and the homogeneity, just it being all the same of the AI speeches, the AI writing. it just sounds like garbage. They call it AI slop in America because
Mm.
it seems very, yeah,
I
not good.
admit I enjoy the occasional baby Trump video, but other than that, I do not have a lot of connection to AI content.
Yeah, yeah, because it's stealing the work of artists. I know some artists who are feeling like we can't do our posters that way anymore. Like a pub made a very strong statement, like, okay, we've done some AI art in the past, but we've got an art institute right next door to us, and we now recognize that AI is stealing the work of these artists, so we're not going to do that anymore. And I think it takes the brave statements of people like that to stand up to this, because otherwise it just slides in, like with the humor, the cat videos, whatever. People are like, oh, that's funny, or the baby videos, funny, sneaks in there. And sometimes it's a cheap and easy way to do something, but it's different doing something for a tool than to start giving your life away to this AI. And it's stealing music and stealing art. And so we're going to end up paying more for the AI. Also, the resources that it takes are ginormous. They're huge. People are noticing in America that Aaron Brockovich is tracking a map of where the data centers for AI are going and how they're sneaking into communities, stealing the water, stealing the electricity. So the town has blackouts. The town runs out of water, or the water's poisoned. There's a low level hum going on. People can't sleep, and it destroys the quality of life. For what? So we can have occasional funny videos or politicians writing chat GPT speeches. Like,
Hmm.
it's pretty bad. Uh, So I hope we get to come to our senses sooner than later. And I think it's starting to happen. So it's good. It's good that people are noticing we can pause AI. There's a movement to do that. It's good that, because that just means slow it down. It doesn't mean stop it completely. It means even the folks at Anthropic are concerned about the dangers to humanity if AI proceeds unchecked the way it's going. And I think we should take note of that when we're hearing these things because it just makes sense. And these are computer scientists, so the experts themselves are concerned. And that's quite telling that we need to at least slow it down, take a look at what we're doing. What do we really want? What's the objective here? It's not the time to keep moving fast and breaking things. And that's part of the ontological shock too. Humans have hit a point almost of godhood when these AI systems that we're now worshiping, like, oh, they write our speeches, they run our grid, they protect our country, but to what, this is it's a Faustian bargain. We're making a deal with something we don't understand. And so I think we're seeing a lot of involvement with the UFO phenomenon also related to that. Like the UFOs come in with when we had nuclear threat of nuclear annihilation, UFOs would arrive and shut down the nuclear operations at that facility. I think we may see similar things with the AI systems, because again, humans are we're a little ahead of ourselves. Like, have we developed the ethics and the quality of character to enable us to safely handle these very dangerous technologies? Perhaps not. So I see that the UFOs come in, whoever they are, whatever they are, they're definitely, I see them as helpful because they're recognizing you guys are, it's like watching a baby playing with sharp knives or with handling a grenade and playing and laughing and throwing the grenade in the air. And an adult would take the grenade from the child. And that's what I see the UFOs doing with us.
Hmm. Yeah. Let's hope that. Personally, I'm not waiting for disclosure. I never have. It's pretty obvious to me that we are not alone and
Yeah.
that there has been non-human influence here all along.
Yes.
Um, but I also don't have that, yippee, the aliens are coming. Um, I'm a bit skeptical. I'm not saying they are all bad, but I could imagine really, really malevolent players out there. And so I'm a little bit on the fence there.
Yes.
And this, when I feel that somebody wants to push me into the direction, no, no, they are all good and it will be so wonderful and we will have this and that and the other. I always have to think of the ending of childhood's end. Yeah. Have you seen that or read it?
I haven't watched the movie. It's been a long time since. Yeah, maybe it could refresh my
Yeah,
memory.
okay, the aliens come,
Yes.
and then humanity has a long period of a wonderful life. And funny enough, God one day steps out of this spaceship and shows himself, and he looks exactly what we would describe as the devil. And then one day, it is disclosed that they will destroy the earth, that it was an experiment, it's no longer needed. And then you have one young gentleman who is still alive. And then before they leave, he says something along the lines of, "Don't forget us."
Well, it's interesting. I don't, it's, to me, it's science. I love science fiction, but I love science fiction that's very optimistic. So I was much more a fan of Isaac Asimov. Um, and I like stories where, because I'm always looking at where does this take us? When I worked in information technology at Citibank, if people would say like I worked here all night, and I'd say, great, what did you get done? And I would say the same thing with science fiction. Great story. What does it accomplish? Where does that take us? What's the gift of that story? And if it and I mean it seriously. How
Mhm.
good can the gift from what is the gift of that? I hope there's a gift in it. And if there isn't, then what good is it? And I mean that in the strongest way of challenging. How good can that story get? That's my challenge to reality. Like Archangel Michael says, who is like God? I say, how good can it get? That is a challenge. It's an absolute challenge to a central AI who thinks it's God to say, really? How good can it get? You prove it. And I would say that to that story too, because that's a dark story. And my initial take on a feeling level is it's not taking me anywhere like uplifting. Instead of feeling the awe of being small, it's giving me the awe of getting squished, the shame of getting squished. And I'm telling you, that's the wrong way to go into sensitivity. So just for me, if people love it, go there. If you want to get squished and like, oh, I felt so good, I'm squished, go for it. Because that you love that experience, but that's not one that I love. So, and that when I'm looking at the story, I'm thinking, really, what does it have to offer? What it like I worked here all night. Okay, what did you do? Where does that story take humanity? What's the gift in that? Like, oh, it's a warning. Like, okay, about what? You know, uh, like really? I'd want it to be a little more intelligent, a little bit more. I would absolutely challenge it at every level, that story, and I'd say, bring your A game. And so I'm not challenging you, and it's great that you like the story, and I know people that love that story, but um, I'm challenging the story itself. Like, really, what is your gift here? And if you don't have it, if you're not bringing it, then I'm going to go with something better. I'm asking, how good can it get? And I don't think that's it. So, I'm not going to order that dish for dinner tonight. Thank you. I see it. Interesting. Move it right along. That's not my order.
Yeah, why I mentioned that was that I simply don't buy the story that they are all so wonderful and have our best at heart, and they are here to help us, yada, yada, yada. I see that um, narrative also a little bit as a psyop. I think it is somewhere in the middle. Not all
Yeah.
humans are bad, and not all humans are good. And why should it be different with other beings?
That's been my experience directly. I have had experience with dozens of beings. And 1987, it was a lucid waking series of dreams. Like every night, I was working at Citibank at the time as an information tech project manager by day, 10-hour days. And then I'd come home. And then for a period of like 2 weeks, every night, I would fall asleep and the dreams would begin. But they're not dreams, they were waking dreams, they were lucid dreams. And I would wake up with a certainty that I'd been on spaceships. And the only person I told was my husband. The whole thing, I know it sounded insane. So I'm pointing out the window. He's like, "Where are they?" Like right there over the park. He's like, "I don't see them." He also has a physics degree. And I said, "Well, they're like interdimensional." And I hadn't watched Doctor Who, but it's exactly like that. It's like it's just interdimensional. It's bigger on the inside. It's like they're huge, but you can't see them. He's like, I don't see them. I'm like, and I was so freaked out. I said, every night I'm working on this project. I was like, it's like not bad enough I'm working 10-hour days at Citibank. And now all night long I'm working on this. They didn't have a name for it, but if I gave it a name, 1987, they were doing a global mind for the humans redesign. And I was working with teams of aliens, and some of them had great designs. I loved it. You'd call them the good ones because they understand humans. They're not taking us into some dark, weird place, which I'm rejecting, like the story, like, next. So I was quality assurance. I got hired for, they didn't pay me. I got drafted. I passed an interview, that I could discern one thing from another. And then I got swept up into a group meeting. The project was described. Next thing I know, I'm looking at dozens of these mind designs for humans. Like, try this one on. A mind is the way your consciousness moves through your being. So I would try these on, and the good ones were like, yeah. And the project goals were keep the creativity without going crazy. So creativity can lead toward insanity. And
Mm.
we've seen that sometimes. Yeah. So without the insanity, they wanted to keep the creativity. It was a 1987. It was just like, these are the prototypes that we're going to roll these out with the new humans being born. And then I didn't think I'd see it. And sure enough, there were the indigo kids, the crystal kids, the rainbow kids. I'm like, whoa, they're actually here. So this was the mind design project for the next generation of humans going into the fifth world. They never said any of this. They just showed me this is what we're doing. Then they showed me these designs. The reptilians, their designs sucked. And then do you know what it's like to walk up to this giant reptilian glowering with no sense of humor? They don't think like we do, and they're reading my mind, so I can't even pretend like I didn't just fail their design. It's like, your design, they know their design failed. They're just like, why? And it's like, this is my job for 2 weeks. It was horrible. I was so traumatized by it back in 1987. Like, this is horrible. Now I'm glad that I was on that team because I got to see the reptilians. You may think they don't care. Some of them on that team did care. They still don't know how a human thinks, but they were really doing their best. And they're reading my mind. And when I'm saying this is a fail, because they wanted more empathy. That was the other piece. Bring in empathy, boost the creative, don't lose creativity. Because a lot of empathy, you lose the creativity, and then damp down the crazy. It was a very complex assignment. And any design could work conceivably. We have a lot of variety on humans, in their minds. They work all different ways, but these reptilian ones, I was trying to make it work and with them. Like, well, I'd love to approve a design here, but you got to give me something to work with, you know. And we made some progress. But the big takeaway, the thing I love most now, is I was working with reptilians, and the beetles weren't so good either. There were certain types of, no offense to them, they know how I feel. I'd see their designs, like, they do not understand humans. I guess they're trying it. I would, I guess they're here. I guess that was your best effort. Like, childhood's end. Like, okay, that's your idea of a good story. So I'm playing the role of quality assurance here, and I'm just looking at it like, does this pass? Not for where we need to go. No. So I'm throwing designs back at the beetles, back at the reptilians, like, try it again. And that took up all my time because the other ones are like, pass, 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 looking good, looking good. The ones that look like humans, guess what? They can think like humans. It's these ones that don't look at all like humans. They're the worst. I mean, they had the hardest time. I don't mean they're bad. I agree with you. They're not bad. And because I got to see them, dozens and dozens of these different beings with their different ways of thinking, and they were showing that to me. That's big. It makes my heart just melt because then I'm realizing they're opening up to me. I know they're crazy and they're kind of pushy and why, it's like, good God, dudes, tamp it down a bit, guys. They don't even know what they're doing. But so I've had personal experience with these. And what I saw is there definitely is some sort of a group. I don't know who they are. They didn't tell me their name. I never saw a flag or a banner, but it's just like this is a group that cares about humanity. They want us to manage the next ontological shock. This is 87. I wasn't writing these books then. I was not doing what I'm doing now. But did it change me? Yes. So I'm just disclosing that because I think I want to share it with people for whatever it's worth so they can recognize, okay, that's interesting. It's just another data point. It's my bizarre experience. I think we each have our own bizarre experiences, and when we share them and come together, that's when I think we can really learn and kind of get a bigger picture, like you're saying. Like I like that you said I don't believe they're all good or they're all bad. I exactly have the same experience,
Mm.
and some of them are trying their hardest, and it sucks. I'm sorry. You got to
Yeah.
have a sense of humor. You got to have a sense of humor. It's like Galaxy Quest. Have you seen that movie? That's funny.
No,
It's a take.
I haven't seen that Galaxy Quest.
Oh,
Is it
it's so
a
funny.
movie?
It's a movie, and it's like it's sort of like oh, it's so funny. It's these actors that are doing a show kind of like Star Trek, but it's not Star Trek, and they're all getting older and jaded, and they're like, why are we doing this? And they're going to yet another conference of um, you know, the fans are there, and they're all having their various problems, coping with fame and feeling like, what am I doing? And then they get swept up in a real life situation. I'm not going to spoil it, but some actual aliens show up. It's hilarious. Who want them to save their world. It's like, you are our heroes. We see your historical documents, and they keep saying, no, that's a movie, that's a TV show. It's like, we have built your ship for you. Here it is. And they're expecting them to play that role. Very, very good film. Very funny.
What
You
you
got to
just
laugh.
what you just what you just said. I had recently an interview with Vicky Joy Anderson, and she is working with people who are suffering from night terrors and extreme forms of sleep paralysis.
Wow. Yes.
And that is exactly what she said as well, that we need to have intellectual, honest conversations, meaning
Yeah.
the
Yes.
neuroscientists should sit
Yes.
at the table, the experiencer should sit at the table, um, the occultist should sit at the table, and then everybody from all fields, this is what I have to offer. This is what I can add to the puzzle and then come to a conclusion. Because no field all by its own can explain it completely. Yeah, and that is what we are lacking as well.
Because we're using consciousness to study consciousness itself.
Mhm.
And consciousness, yeah, I used to help organize conferences that are starting back up again, so hopefully, Foundations of Mind conferences with Sean Onuland, who passed away this year in January. And he was a big believer. He worked in the laboratory of Walter Freeman, who was a neurologist at UC Berkeley. And Sean brought his computer science background and knowledge of physics to that conversation. And he was masterful at bringing together people from all walks, not so much the UFO community necessarily, but it's the same thing. It's consciousness. We have to study consciousness and we have to bring in the multidisciplinary approach. It's extremely important at this time. So, that kind of effort to bring humanity up and understand what are we creating when we create an AI, for example? Will we know consciousness when we create it? What are we looking at? We don't even know our own. We need to get up that learning curve now. And this is part of that ontological shock. And I'm so glad that you had a guest talking about that. I totally agree. Very
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah. And another point of view is I'm remember when I just said a couple of minutes ago, it feels as if everything is coming to a crescendo. I'm not really surprised about that. I mentioned it, I guess, last time we talked from an astrological point of view. everything is, has these revolutionary energies, yeah, and it's mopping up big time, yeah. So that doesn't really surprise me. And then, of course, look at our location where we are. We are right between Venus and Mars. Venus, the female energy, Mars, the male energy. So, yeah, there is always tension here. That it cannot be any other way. The tension does not necessarily mean that it has to end up in chaos and war and pestilence and what have you, but it is certainly in the cards. So it is up to us to play the cards differently.
Yeah. And that's again leading with that sensitivity, that masterful approach to when you don't know what you're dealing with, listen first. Listen so you can get into that flow state and have empathy, like recognize that you can be one with whatever, even something that seems so other. Like Venus looks at Mars, like you're opposite. You're just taking a very warlike approach here. Like, is that necessary? But to be able to listen and to have empathy for it is to start bridging that gap and being together. So this is how together we can lead. We can be leaders in our own lives with sensitivity first. Like rather than working yourself to the bone, recognize if your body's falling apart, it's telling you something. Start listening, soften it up a little bit. Be sensitive to yourself because a lot of us with that type A personality, just go, 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 do, do. I had that personality. It would be very easy for me to damage myself. And I've had to learn to soften things up. And I think a lot of us with this ontological shock need to be gentle. And it's not necessary to get all obsessed with UFOs and aliens either. You're just fine if you don't get all wrapped up in that. It's not necessary. I'm not, I don't foresee a time that our ET overlords, I'm laughing. I feel like I've dreamt with them. I've seen them. They don't consider themselves overlords from what I've seen. No. Even and I've read books by Zecharia Sitchin, and I don't foresee that either. Will we be taken over by Sumerian gods, from the sky? Like that's not what I'm feeling, and it's not my experience from 1987. It looks like it looks much more like, hey, you guys, you earthling babies, you were crawling, you're about to start walking, you're grabbing things and pulling everything off the tablecloth, but we think you've got this. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like this time we're not going to come down like overlords. You can do this, and we know you can. You're going to stumble and you'll grab the grenade. If you start pulling the pin, we'll take it from you, whether it's an AI grenade or an atomic weapon grenade. We can see that, and we will not let the baby humans destroy them. That's what it looks like to me. So, are we going to see these guys? Maybe. Paula has had a personal meeting with one. Very interesting experience on Terrell. She talks about that. But more or less, it seems like most of them are just they've been here for a long time. They're all over the planet. We're sort of surrounded by them, is what I learned reading Paula's books and talking with her. And there's evidence to support that this is not anything new. So I don't think we can expect like the invasion or that we'll be saved. I don't think it's going to be like that. Humans need to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps here. And the kind of support I see is from the it's like the wings, kind of like the parents are watching the kids, like, oh, they've got it this time. We think they've got it. I think they're just cheering us on, what it feels like. Even though some of them look scary, some of them you could say they're mean, they're evil, maybe, but there are some good ones in there too. I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this entire Savior program, that to me is uh, so misleading. Yeah. And, but yeah, I get it somehow, from a psychological point of view, you do not have to do a lot. You do not have to do your best and, efforts, and you just have faith and you wait and everything will be fine. And then Savior A, B, C, D, whatever your flavor is, yeah, will ride in and save the day. And actually, we have been trained since our childhood, in our fairy tales. Yeah, the damsel in distress, and here comes the prince on the white horse, and whisks her away, and everything is fine for her. So I'm not really surprised we have this savior program inherited. Yeah, but yeah, it's deceiving.
That's why we need new stories. And that's again like the stories like Disclosure Day, Steven Spielberg's movies. It's not so much about the alien. You can almost ignore that factor. And people are like, what? Sacrilege. No, you can. From this viewpoint that the lens of perception we're using right now. If you look at the watch that movie and think, what kind of story is this? It's not a savior story. So it's a very interesting one. It's showing us this is how you guys can get through the next 50 years. I think Spielberg does this. I think he did it with Close Encounters, and I think he's done it again. It's basically showing like you want to save the world, you got to have to do it yourselves, and here's how. Here's how. Here's one way, you know. It's I think that's beautiful. We do need new stories. And then people are like, that's boring. Like, okay, so it's boring. You want the knight fighting the dragon and, conquering and saving the princess and all this stuff. But isn't that kind of boring? Haven't we seen that before? What's really happening for humanity now? What are the stories that we need to tell to bring ourselves forward in the future? How good can our stories get? And I think that's a great challenge. And maybe Disclosure Day is not the best. Great. Well, what's better? Let's bring that because it's really what if it's not about the aliens? What if it's more about who are we?
Um, I think what a lot of people are missing, they would have loved to see more aliens in the
Oh,
movie. And I'm not sure if that is true. As I said, I haven't seen it, and but
yeah,
a lot
people
of
say that.
people mentioned that you see one alien in the entire movie.
I know they're in the nuts and bolts mindset that Paula Harris and Jacques Vallée talk about. So when Paula Harris, if you read her book Connecting the Dots, it starts with nuts and bolts and it ends up very much sounding like Jacques Vallée. It's like it's all consciousness. Maybe it's not just extraterrestrials. Maybe it's more interesting than that. Exactly. And when Colonel Corso tells Paula Harris that when he had a discussion with a being, he asks the being friend or foe, and it says neither. That's interesting. It's not fitting our stories right there. Like that's not fitting our story. And then Commander Corso, Colonel Corso asks, "What's in it for us? What do you offer us?" And the being says, "A new world if you can take it." So it's up to us. It's not that the being is giving us a new world if we can take it. It's up to us to create the new world. And it really is reality creation. It really is subjective. It really is based on love, listening, empathy, the opposite of those narcissistic qualities you're talking about. We do need a new story because there could be a narcissistic hero of those old stories that we think we love with the rescue and someone is rescued by a narcissist. And then you think about it like, really, is this going to go that well? They just got rescued by a narcissist. And we don't delve into that in the story, but what if that's the case? And it seems like that's much of human history. We get swept away by narcissist du jour. And what if we need to stop doing that and recognizing we don't want to be rescued? We're not part of the victim triangle. I'm not a victim, you're not a victim. We don't need to be rescued by a rescuer. And there doesn't need to be the bad guy because that's part of a false trilogy. It's like victim, rescuer, perpetrator, the definition of the drama triangle. And what if we've outgrown it? What if that's the real thing that's happening right now? What does
Mm.
it look like when we outgrow the drama triangle? We don't need the bad guys and we don't need the heroes. We don't need the UFO ETs to show up like either the super bad guys or the heroes because it's not about that this time. It's about us. It's about who are we really and what is reality really. It's always been about that. And quantum physics first introduced those ideas as being a question from our sciences. Our religions and our spirituality sometimes encourage us to look at that. Not always. Sometimes they say take it on faith. But a good religion is going to encourage us to rise above that old story that I'm hoping that we've outgrown because we don't need the bad guys or the good guys. We can recognize, this can be a time of co-creation, of collaborative co-creation of ourselves and of all of reality.
Yeah. And I think we should also mention if we say we are not victims and we are not waiting for, that doesn't mean you cannot become victim of injustice or victim of a crime. That is not what we are talking about. Of course, it can happen. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's a good point because if people wonder what am I don't know what I am. If anyone is asking that, you're very self-aware. It's a rare question to ask. You can identify it by look at which emotions you tend to get stuck in. If there's a lot of grief and sadness, that's a victim position. It doesn't mean you're always a victim. You're just feeling grief and sadness, emotional. It's like an imprint on that role. The rescuer is going to be anxious, frightened, and feeling like I need to get involved. I need to save these people from themselves. The world's going to collapse if I don't do this, whatever. That's fear, fear, fear. And then the perpetrator, anger, anger, anger. And there you go. So those are primary colors of emotions. Sure, it's fine to have them. You can be angry and not be a perpetrator. You can be frightened or concerned and not be a rescuer. You can be sad and not be a victim and, even grief stricken. So their emotions, emotion, energy and motion, let it flow. If it's stuck and you're feeling it stuck, then that's getting stuck in that spot. That's what we're rising above is the stuckness, the just feeling like I'm always right and I'm angry because everybody's wrong. Like danger, dude. You're playing the role of victim. I mean, not victim. You're playing the bad guy here. You're the perpetrator. They're gonna come gunning for you. Like, nah, they're stupid, like, well, you're kind of bringing it on through the anger that you're not letting go. So, yeah, sense of humor can help rise above all of these. So, humor is a friend, love is a friend.
yeah. And yeah, so I was going to say, well, what we are talking about is the victim mentality. That is actually what keeps you down. That is not to say you cannot become a victim of crime or whatever. Definitely that can happen, but this victim mentality. But I notice that more and more people pick up on this subject. Um, for instance, I don't know if you have heard of him, Frank Zanu. He is a gentleman from Benin. He lives in the United States, and he started the Rethink Project. And he invites students or other people that are interested to his show and encourage them to rethink the conclusions that they made, that Africans are always victims. Um, all our problems stem from colonization. All our problems are because of the white man. All our problems are this and that and the other. And so there are some very interesting talks. Um, uh, one is titled Racism Does Not Exist. Another one is titled Our Forefathers Built Nothing. And on it goes. So I see even a change there. It is in its infant stage.
Yeah.
But when I look in the comment section, a lot of people are picking it up and saying, yeah, actually, I haven't looked at it from that perspective, but I think you are right. We need to drop our victimhood, otherwise we will never progress. So there you
Yes.
have it.
Yeah, that victim triangle is sometimes called the Karpman drama triangle. So if people want to look that up, Karpmann. And Lynn Forrest has a really good book, Beyond the Victim Triangle. So if people want to know, okay, now I see the triangle, how do I get out of it? Lynn Forrest that's a great book, Beyond the Victim Triangle. And yeah, yeah. definitely. And I love what you're saying about Frank Zano. I don't know his work, but it seems like it's necessary deconstruction of this whole narcissistic inverted energy that has been constructed that we've been talking about. Like all these systems are so they're kind of intrinsically corrupt, and it's a problem across the whole world. It's very, very problematic. But fortunately, there are people like yourself talking about this and encouraging all of us to think about, what's really happening here and how long has this been going on and how do we come out of it? And it is a process, but yeah, I think we're doing well just to be looking at it and just one step at a time. First, I think the first step is observation. Like, is this really happening? Yes. And I think people are feeling there, even if they don't know what's happening, they feel like you do that there's this imminent sense of everything coming together, like this,
Mm,
it's all happening. This is this big moment right now.
yeah,
So
yeah. I'm not saying, Africa doesn't have a lot of problem. There are problems. There are a lot of problems, and what I'm observing right now is giving me the creeps at the moment. But uh, this pushing away the narrative of white man bad. Yeah. Uh, I think that is important,
yeah,
and it is one of the obstacles that, because there comes a point when you get really comfortable in your victimhood. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
have an explanation for everything, and automatically that kills your efforts. Because we have all determined and concluded we are victims. So what the heck? No efforts needed.
yeah. Yeah, it's an interesting process. I think the people playing the rescuer role tend to be the ones noticing the whole dynamic at first, much more than the victims themselves. So the people playing the rescuer role start noticing, like, wow, have I been overdoing this? Am I jumping in to help situations where nobody asked for help? Am I making this better, really? Or maybe those of us rescuing might be throwing fuel on the fire inadvertently, creating new victims where, if they're really looking at it, they'll see that and think, oh, shoot. So that's usually the escape point from the victim triangle is the rescuer role. Just noticing that dynamic and noticing what happens if you don't play the role of the rescuer. Does the world fall apart? Hopefully not. And then
No,
you can
but
start being, yeah, then you can move into a higher level version of that role, which is one of a teacher, an educator, a cheerleader, someone who's inspiring others, but not pushing anything, not telling you, you have to do this. So walking away from the helicopter over involvement role and stepping into one of, I'll say these ideas, and when people are ready for them, find me. They'll find the ideas. So we can all do something, and each thing you might think you're not doing much, that is a lot. And there's a huge ripple effect. So even if you just move out of rescuer into just being a little bit of an inspirer once in a while, wow, you inspire a few people and then they inspire a few people. And it's this huge awakening, ripple effect. It's very
yeah,
positive.
yeah. And what I also noticed that we have sometimes this tendency to jump from one extreme to another. Okay, we drop the savior program, but that doesn't mean that, you cannot assist or support. Yeah, you should do that. Not to the point where you lose yourself again, but your empathy, to see what is needed here. What can, let's say somebody has, oh, my cat. I found her in the compound of a hospital. She came out of the bushes. She was very, very skinny. She had lost half her fur. So, yeah, here was an animal that was in dire need of support. So I did that. Yeah. And
Yes.
and that has nothing to do with the Savior program. So we need to come to a little bit more balance, not going from one extreme to the other. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh, I know what you mean. And it reminds me that there's a book called Suicidal Empathy because right now on the political sphere, some people are saying that those who are empathetic and trying to help people, like whether it's people immigrating to the new country or what have you, they say it's suicidal empathy because it's like there's like a so much empathy that you've lost your boundaries and you're getting trampled on, and you don't even
Yeah.
see the damage that can later occur. But I would not call it suicidal empathy. I think they've misused that word, and I know it's catching on, and people say, "Oh, that's right." It's not right. Empathy has a very clinical, specific definition of being an intuitive feeler, and at its highest, it gives us the ability to assist, like UFOs and ETs are assisting off, off to the sides. They're not on the stage center with the spotlight on them or anything. They're just supporting roles. And we empaths can help by providing things, not necessarily giving everything that someone asks for and treating them like infants. That's more, I don't know what to call it, but it's not, when they say suicidal empathy, I think it's a big misuse of the word empathy. So I see like we definitely are going to extremes, and there's a definite problem shaping up that you're definitely on the pulse of. You found it. That's right. And I don't know how to fix it, but I think people recognizing that we can play a role of assisting without being parental, and because I think that's definitely a thing when you start infanticizing a group of people and saying you guys are all victims, so we know what's best for you, we're gonna do this for you. That's a whole different thing. Then here's some inspiration. Can you do this yourself? Pull yourself up by the bootstraps and get yourself started. That would be the role of the coach, the inspirer. That's true empathy to me, and that's the role of the rescuer in a very empowered form, rather than the disempowered one where the boundaries are trampled. The rescuer feels exhausted because I'm giving, giving, giving. What do they want from me? And I can't win. The bad guys are always ahead of me. It looks like that to the rescuer. If you're stuck in that role of anxiety and worry and fear, and that's how you know you're stuck there. But you can find some humor, release it, and recognize that it's good to care and provide assistance when people are ready to be lifted up. That you can be there as the coach, cheering them on. You can provide a little bit of protection, but not everything. You're not infanticizing them. You're there to support them at whatever level they're at.
So what I take away from this conversation is that empathy is the way to go. The way
I'd say so.
forward,
Yeah.
the way where we make the biggest leaps forward.
Yes. It's the growth path. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's definitely the growth path. And I think we've definitely pointed out some of the dangers here, talking about how people can get pulled into, getting your boundaries trampled and feeling like you're overextended. Then you don't quite have it yet. Keep working on it. Get your empathy down. And there's a sweet spot, and you can let that sensitivity within you guide you so that you yourself know that you're not overextending yourself, that you're providing support and protection and guidance and inspiration without talking when you're not asked for help. Respond when you're requested, and simple things like that. Like what works for you, maybe that works for other people too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And I also would say, another thing that we could do is make ourselves a little bit more independent from what we call medicine and find our
Yes.
our personal ways how to deal with. Of course, if you have a broken arm, you need to have somebody fix that. Yeah, I'm not saying never see a doctor again. That is not what I
Yes.
mean. But I think even in that field, there will be a lot of shifts And not all developments will be for our betterment. We have seen that in the last couple of years with this concoction against a microbe.
Yeah.
And so even there, it is time to grow up.
Yes, absolutely. And there's a steep learning curve on that one that you're mentioning because a lot of people are going through a really hard time now. It's 6 years after 2020, and yeah, so um, yeah, I don't know what to say quickly. I'll just mention there's on Substack. There's a great author, a Midwestern doctor from the forgotten side of medicine. Just a shout out. So if people want to know, like, yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of stuff. What can I do? That would be one good place to look. So it's just looking at the forgotten side of medicine is what really works before there were the big pharma companies pushing things. What did
Yeah.
the studies actually show? What do they continue to show? What's actually real? What can help us? And yeah,
Yeah, or as we both have found a way to deal with our osteoarthritis, and
yes,
it is amazing how it worked. Hmm?
yes,
Yeah,
very powerful. And some of these things would get they showed up briefly, like we're talking about DMSO, and it was on our TV show 60 Minutes in the 1970s. But then before it got caught on, it started catching on because it could reduce pain and bring healing and all sorts of good things. And it sounded too good to be true. And then the pharmaceutical companies came in very strongly because they don't want to lose their market share of painkillers and things that don't really necessarily solve anything, but they sort of, you don't want to take too many big pharmaceutical products at once because they're contraindicated with one another and they can
yeah,
contribute to system failure. So anyway, this got shut down, but that Midwestern doctor from the forgotten side of medicine provides hundreds of pages of firsthand reports of success stories and lots of science and documentation proving studies have been conducted showing that this very simple plant-based substance can um, repair senescent cells. Those are the old cells that are starting to die. It can stop cancer. It can definitely reduce pain and inflammation. And just the thing about repairing broken cells and refolding misfolded proteins, right there, it's like wow. The fact that it does all the rest of this is like that's amazing. So it
yeah,
is quite amazing.
yeah. And that is also the reason why I strongly believe we will never have an announcement that we have the cure for cancer. First of all, it's already there. But yeah, cancer patients are a $1 billion business. Yeah.
Right.
When you look at what one chemo costs, and they will not give up that market. I
Yeah.
don't think so. Not at the moment. Maybe further down the line when we wake up a little bit more and yeah, we can see a lot more through the nonsense. Then yeah, maybe. I think in the future we will have a better form of medicine. But
Yes.
right now, I don't have a lot of trust in that system.
Well, that's on the Hopi Prophecy Rock too. There used to only be one Prophecy Rock, but there was a Mandela effect for me about the Hopi Prophecy Rocks. Now there are two of them, and guess what? The second one shows that there will be technology for those of us who master empathy and keep our one heart, loving nature and each other, and staying open to true inspiration with the Kopavi chakra. Those of us who do that we're going to see the technology that heals the earth and ourselves. And that's on the I'm getting goosebumps. It's on the second prophecy rock. And I'm thinking, because I was watching that prophecy rock since the year 2000 when I published an article about the Hopi, the words Tunatya, Tunatyava, comes true being hoped for, because it's all about reality shifting. And so when I wrote that article for Parabola magazine in 2000, spring 2000, ever since then, I've been watching that prophecy rock. And because it's like a touchstone, touchstone. And then now this year it's changed. It's got three changes. It's now got the people with two hearts are the ones that go up into the cloud and poof, the narcissists are gone. The not two-minded, but two-hearted people. They're not sincere. Off they go. So you need one heart to have one heart of connection for everyone. They continue. So that's new. There's a line that used to be there that grandfather Martin said in a video, he's pointing at it and saying it used to be there and it's not. So that's interesting. And I think that had to do with those people who I think they were kind of continuing on and causing more trouble, but they go poof a lot sooner. So the narcissists are not going to stay with us. And the third one, the healing technology is coming, and it's on stone number two. It's like the world continues and a gift arrives. Like we have the technology will be inspired, probably given it to us through inspiration that we can create the technology to heal the planet, heal ourselves. So I don't know what that means, but I take it as a good sign because it's coming from the people that have been tracking. They say the world's ended four times already. There was a great flood. They say there will be a purification. I think we're in it right now. And personally, I'm hoping that it doesn't need to be a cataclysm. The Hopi talk about the twins, the North and South poles, that they move around. I'm hoping, I know they're moving, but I hope this is a gentle move this time. And I'm counting on us, humanity. We've been crawling a long time. I think we're standing up. I think we can handle this one for the first time, that we don't need a cataclysm and that we can have the healing technology, that we don't need to lose everything that we've gained. We don't need to get knocked back to the Stone Age because that's happened before. That's
Yeah.
what the Hopis say.
And, this cataclysm is counterproductive in the sense that, yeah, okay, you start at square one
Right.
without any idea why you are back at square one.
Right. I would rather that we learn about the drama triangle, that we learn about narcissism, that we learn how to listen and be empaths now. And those who don't, they're just going to fizzle out. That path is going. But this is the way forward: listening, empathy, love, kindness. And it's not about getting squashed by some hideous nightmare future. I don't see that. I see awe, wonder, reverence. I ask, how good can it get? And I know by asking it, that's what I'll experience. And then that's why I recommend that question so much, because it comes from physicist John Archibald Wheeler, that you ask nature a question, nature answers. Ask the good questions.
Yeah,
Ask the questions you want to live the answers to. So,
yeah. Okay. So, Cynthia, I thank you so much. I think we covered a lot of ground today.
thank you. Oh, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure talking with you, and I just love your insights and your experience. We didn't talk much about we touched on politics and everything, but thank you, Judith, for everything you're doing for the planet through the podcast and just through your heart and those you touch, because you're amazing. And
Oh, thank
I'm
you
one of
so much.
I'm one of those people touched by you. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for pushing it forward, that you on the road you didn't give up with shifting the reality because you have done it for a really long time and it can be frustrating if you have the feeling it's taking too long.
I feel encouraged and inspired because I keep seeing like I'll watch an interview with Jesse Michaels talking to Jordan something or other, a young man, and they're talking about the Mandela effect. And I'm like, yeah, and they're talking about consciousness, and they're mentioning, like, it's so weird. Steven Spielberg had this ad for the movie, and he talked about 8 billion people, deserve to know the truth. And then he had another ad like 7 billion people, and they're talking about a Mandela effect right there. That's one that those of us in International Mandela Effect Conference, we covered that right when it was happening. So the fact that Steven Spielberg ended up being recorded with both, I get it. That happened. The population of Earth did go to 7 billion, and then it came back to 8 billion. That's another Mandela effect. This is amazing. And those guys looking at the UFO phenomenon, they're noticing it's going into consciousness. It is all about consciousness. That is the message. Exactly. Yes, exactly. And they're noticing that's what the physicists said all along, right? And I've been saying that too, for, like you said, 26, 27 years. And yay, I'm just glad that people are getting there too. So I don't feel exhausted. I don't feel run down or cynical. I feel grateful, happy. really grateful. It's like, yeah, it's catching on. People are noticing. So thank you, Judith, so much for making it happen too, because it's your questions and the way you bring this level of excitement and interest and energy makes all the difference. Because then the conversation is so fresh, current, and I hope useful for people. I feel like it
Okay.
is.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, yeah, guys, that was it, Night Flight for today. And we see you all on the next one. And here's the button.